first thing you've got to do is you've got to have what I call incontestable value. And I mean that if listings are tight in your marketplace, yes, oversupply of buyers, so we've got a huge demand but low supply, you want to get your conversion up on your listing presentation, meaning I could choose 4 other agents in my marketplace, but why should I choose you? And I think enough agents don't do that, because if you're not able to bring what I call incontestable value to the listing presentation, people just choose agents based on price and who's got the lowest fee of marketing.
You are listening to Elevate, the official podcast of Elite Agent for real estate industry sales professionals, property managers and leaders. Each episode, we bring you the best minds in business and real estate to help you list more, sell more and elevate your results. To connect with all things Elite Agent, including the latest news, coaching and features, subscribe at our website, eliteagent.com.
Welcome to another episode of the Elevate podcast, where we delve into some of the most interesting minds in business and in real estate for all the very, very best tips and strategies for you to implement to elevate your business. I'm Samantha McLean, editor of Elite Agent, and today I am joined again by Mark Edwards.
A pleasure to be back again, Sam.
Yeah, it's not like you ever leave.
No, it isn't. I'm here, I'm stuck, I'm in the place.
But it's my New Year's resolution to get you into this studio more.
Excited to be here. But I'm excited also to be introducing this podcast. It's an exciting one with a long-term friend of Elite Agent, Mr. Claudio Encina.
Well, his name, to me, he'll always be Osher.
Yeah, Osher.
And you'll hear through this podcast, he calls me Sonia. And, you know, like, it came from Transform a couple of years ago, where we were going to choose a few people, and it was going to be a bit more like a reality show where we would get someone to leave every week. and he
you
was
did not receive a rose.
yeah. So Claudio was going to be the "you did not receive a rose" guy, and we thought that, you know, Osher was a great nickname for him because, you know, obviously
he does have the best hair in real estate.
He really does. I mean, you know, I don't know anyone that comes close. Maybe Stu Benson. I don't know, but
maybe we should have a competition.
A hair off.
So anyway, tell me a little bit about this podcast.
You're going to hear him call me Sonia all the way through, so don't be too disturbed about that. It's just something that he calls me because I'm taller than him, and I have got...
And you're blonde.
Yeah, and I've got nothing against... I don't believe the same things as Sonia Kruger and really look nothing like her, but, you know, I think Claudio's just being nice. Anyway, you know, so we had a great jam in this session about... You know, throughout last year, people send me in questions about, you know, some of the things that are on their minds, like, can you do some content on this, or can you write an article on this, blah, blah, blah. And also Claudio does the Ask the Coach column in the magazine, where people write in, askthecoach@eliteagent.com. If you ever have a question over 2020 that you want Claudio to answer, feel free to send that one in to that email address. Anyway, what I did is I just gathered up all the questions that I've been asked in the last...
You've been sliding them in the bottom drawers and then coming in?
I have been. So I gathered them all up and thought, right, this is my opportunity, and locked the door behind him and didn't let him leave till he'd answered every single one of them.
He's very generous with his time, his information and his knowledge, isn't he?
He is. So we ran a whole bunch of stuff, you know, like how to have better meetings, how to better connect with your team. Both of those, I was told, were big issues last year by a lot of people that, you know, were sort of struggling to motivate other people through the tougher market. You know, how to move stock in a slower market, how to find more listings when listings are scarce, the old dreaded cold calling, like Claudio and I had a really good chat on whether cold calling is still relevant or not, what to do when you feel like you're in a bit of a slump, or conversely, like, and this is something that people don't talk about, is, you know, what do you do when you feel like you've achieved your goals?
How do you maintain the motivation?
Yeah, or what's next? Is this all there is, kind of thing. So this was a really enjoyable 45 minutes or so with Claudio, and we took lots of notes after this show, so there is a lot of actionable strategies in this one. Like, if you download these notes at eliteagentelevate.com, then I can assure you you'll be able to tick off, you know, like, is this what I'm doing? He's got a great red, amber, green strategy.
Yep.
Funnily enough, the Osher thing, like, he talks about roses. He actually talks. He's got a bit of a rose strategy.
If you've been on the fence about getting a copy of the action guide, this is one that you're definitely not going to want to miss out on. And I'll tell you what, I can guarantee you there's going to be things, as you said, you're just going to want to be checking off as you work your way through it.
Yeah, definitely. I think this one's a really good one to kick off the year with, kick off the decade with. And another good way to kick off the decade is another one of my New Year's resolutions is to ask more people and to invite more people to hit that subscribe button in iTunes, because every little bit helps. It helps get our content out to more people. So if you are enjoying the podcast, we'd love it if you go to iTunes and hit that subscribe button. And the other thing that we'd love you to do, I guess, is support the show and sign up to Extra. So that is where we send you, so you don't actually have to log into each action guide to get the notes. We send them to you once a month, every month, via Australia Post. And there's lots of good content coming up this year, so there has never been a better time to get Extra from Elite Agent.
Absolutely, and I think that probably means that it's also haven't been a better time to get on with the podcast.
I think this is a good time to get on with the show.
Enjoy.
Welcome to the podcast, Claudio Encina.
Hey, Samantha. Thank you for inviting me.
I know you nearly said Sonia then.
I did.
It's the Sonia and Osha show.
I know, because I'm just so used to calling you Sonia and you calling me Osha. I was like going, hey, Sonia, but yeah.
I know. I'm so pleased that...
It sounds too formal, me calling you Sam or Samantha. It's like, you know...
I know. People ask me what to call me these days, and I say that I answer to most things. So it's all good. I'll tell you what else is good.
Tell me.
Is I am back in the interviewer's chair.
Woo!
Last time we were together in this room, you were the one that was asking the questions, making us all uncomfortable.
I was. That was the 100th episode, right? I mean, how cool was that? That was such a great day.
It was a great day. There was champagne, and now it's just 2020 and all business.
And water. No champagne today.
Happy New Year, by the way.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you.
What are you most looking forward to in 2020?
25 years in the industry. I'd have to say 2019 and obviously a bit of 2018 has probably been one of the challenging years that I've seen for a lot of agents in the marketplace. Yes, probably the back end of 2019, we started to see a rejuvenated market and confidence come in and agents start to lift. For me, what am I looking for in 2020? There's just going to be so much opportunity. There's so many things happening in terms of, say, offline, online stuff that's going on. There's so much opportunity. That's what I can see. And I say to agents that, with this market that we're seeing and we've come off for the last probably 4 to 5 months, is don't let that market just float past you. You got to capitalize it. You got to jump on it, because we don't know how long it's going to be around. But at the moment, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing 2020 where we've got some stability and agents are capitalizing on that.
New year, new decade. So,
my God, new decade.
And it's I was talking to someone the other day, it's actually the beginning of a whole new Chinese astrology cycle.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, so, which is 60 years, right?
Yes.
So it's not just a cycle of 10 years or, like last year was the year of the pig.
Yes.
This year is the year of the rat, I think, the metal rat.
Oh my God, okay.
No, I'm not into Chinese astrology or anything like that, but I was reading somewhere where this is the beginning of great things and lucky things.
Yeah, totally.
Well, and I think, choose to be lucky. That's what the great Josh Altman used to say.
Yes, totally. Yeah, but I think you hit a point there, like we're in a new decade, right? And the decade's gone like that. I remember 2 decades have gone like that. I remember Sydney Olympics in year 2000, which, seems like it was just only yesterday. And then here we are, talking, and it's 2 decades have gone through. And, I say to a lot of people, as each year goes by and a decade goes by, like, what is it you're going to do next year? And if this is a new year right now, are you planning to copy and paste the same year? Or do you plan to sort of like wake up and go, you know what, this is going to be different, because I think sometimes we get caught up in a rut, or we keep doing the same thing year on year. And new year, new decade can be an enormous opportunity. And I don't know about you, but my greatest fear for me, can I call you Sonia?
Of course you can call me Sonia.
Thanks, Sam. Sonia, I mean. But one of my greatest fears for me has always been that if you wake up 12 months later and you're still the same person that you were 12 months ago. So, it's a new year, new decade, new you, whatever you want to call it. But, you've got an opportunity to start from a clean slate, right?
You can make the choice between one day or day one.
That's right. Ooh, I like that.
You like that. So we've got some questions for you to help get everyone off on the right track.
Okay, it's a new year. Be easy
January.
with me. I'm still dusting off. I'm still coming out of the coma, wiping the sand out of my eyes, being on holidays.
I've got a long memory, Usher. I've got a long memory.
Okay, be nice.
But, obviously you are our Ask the Coach in the magazine, and we're very grateful that you've been our Ask the Coach and involved in our Transform programs and everything like that, and you've helped a lot of people over the years. And so I guess, we're just translating a bit of this Ask the Coach into the podcast world. So I have some questions here. Are you ready?
Perfect. Fire away. And before we go there, I just want to say I'm very privileged to be Ask the Coach and have that column and, making a difference for some of the agents who throw questions at me.
Some people don't know this, but when people subscribe to the brief on Elite Agent, you put in your email address and then obviously you get a welcome email from us. But then in the last year, we kind of implemented this thing where you put your email address in and it redirects you to another page, which has got a video of me saying, hey, welcome to the tribe. If we could solve your biggest challenge in real estate, what would it be?
Yes.
And so people often will put their biggest challenges in, and I don't know who they are.
Yes.
But these questions that we're asking are really, they're inspired by just regular agents out there that may be earning $1 million, may not be, but it's actually interesting to know that I think most agents go through the same things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's keeping it relevant.
It is, absolutely. So here we go.
Okay. Far away. Be nice.
I reckon the number one challenge of 2019 was keeping people motivated and engaged because volumes were down. It was tough. So my first question is, what would your advice be to have better team meetings or better one-on-ones with your people?
If I was a principal or a sales manager in the marketplace today, the first thing is to have better one-on-ones. I want to understand where they're currently at, where someone is at. And I always use it for myself, and yes, I coach clients and whatever else, but I use it pretty much like a traffic light system. So for me, if you're in green, it's like you're clear, you have a plan, you're getting momentum, you're getting traction, and you're making progress and you're moving forward, right? If someone's in orange, it sort of feels like you can feel like they're stuck. They feel like their wheels are spinning. They're not getting any traction at all. And then knowing someone could be in red lights. And red light to me is like someone's in a downward spiral and the next 30 days are really critical for that person. So firstly, on a one-on-one level, understand where your team member is right now. Are they green? Are they in orange, or are they in red? We do that with everyone because I want to have a clear understanding. My job and my role, and as a leader for my people, but also if you're in an office and you're leading people, is how can I get them in green lights constantly? So number one is asking them, where do they feel they are right now? And that would be a question you would ask out of each one-on-one, number one. Number two, as a one-on-one, I think it shouldn't just be about the optics, the numbers, and working that out. I think it should also be a coaching session. That's what good leaders do. They're mentors. And if you're not mentoring and all you're doing is worried about KPIs, you're going to lose a lot of a disconnection between yourself and the person that works under you. I think the main thing is it should be looking as you're mentoring, you're coaching. Ask the question at the end, what were your key takeaways from our meeting today? I think that's super important because people have meetings, but they go, what was all that about?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I want to get feedback from somebody if I'm working with them and in a one-on-one level to work out, what did you get out of our little meeting today that we had for half an hour?
It's like a sales call, isn't it? And if you're a leader, the person sitting opposite you is your client.
Yep.
And so if you want them to continue coming and sitting opposite you, then you've got to provide value back.
They've got to get a takeaway. If not, they just think it's a total waste of time.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's a $3 million writer, like a high performer, or you've got someone who's writing $200,000 GCI. It doesn't matter. It just matters like what are they getting away from it? And you've got to ask that question. And one of the things I find, and I actually was working, Sam, with a principal, and he said, he wasn't getting much engagement from his one-on-ones. And I said, something that I find what starts a really good conversation is maybe just go to them and say, hey, listen, I want to know, what are your roses? Like, what have been some of your wins that you've had? Like it's nice for recognition, nice to sort of and people love telling some of their wins. That that listing I was chasing for the last 18 months, and I was up against, my competitor A and the other competitor B in my marketplace. And, the lady chose me because of X, Y, Z. People love telling their wins. So number one, I always say is tell me your roses.
Yeah.
The second thing I would say is tell me your buds. What are you working on right now? What is it you're working on, your business, or I don't know, just in general, like what's going on? Like, so tell us your buds,
You are, Osher.
Why?
We're talking roses.
Oh my God! I knew you'd bring that up.
I love it, but
Sonia, very good, very quick there. By the way, very quick.
Did I receive a rose for that?
You did, but I don't want to go with the next, because then I'm going to ask that person. I'd say, like, what are the thorns?
Yeah.
So what are the things that are pulling you back? What are your anchors right now? What do you feel is not working for you? And I think apart from just bringing metrics, I think you need to bring some of those things and get to better one-on-ones as well. Sometimes do things that are random. I think doing things that are random is super cool, meaning that I might just come in one morning. I might see you, Sonia, and say, how's your diary looking? You're going, oh, no, I haven't got nothing much this morning. Great. Let's go and have breakfast.
Yep.
Let's go for a cup of coffee, or do something random. That when you asked him what his thorn was and he said, or she said was X, Y, Z, you might go, if you want to get better branding, go and get a really good, cool book about branding the next day. That's random. Doing those little things of random, you get a high respect from people.
Yeah.
Because it shows you care and you listen.
Yeah.
And I think that's the two things I believe as a leader you need to have. So to get better one-on-ones, I don't know, maybe that could help. But I know that if you ask some of those, what are your key takeaways? Understand where your people are. Are they red, orange, or green? And great conversation starters.
Yeah.
Roses, buds, and thorns. And I'll wear my suit and and I'll have my red roses there.
How many roses do you have today?
Exactly.
That's the question.
Yeah, totally.
Good answer. Let's move on. So in 2019, buyers dropped, then volumes dropped, and then ScoMo got re-elected, and then the buyers came back.
Totally, we saw the upswing come up. Yeah,
we saw the upswing. I'm guessing that we're sort of going to go into 2018 with a similar level of volume, and probably an oversupply of buyers.
Yes.
So as an agent, what is your tip, or what is your tip for agents to manage that situation where there is an oversupply of buyers and not a lot of stock on the market?
Okay. Number one, first thing you've got to do is you've got to have what I call incontestable value. And I mean that if listings are tight in your marketplace, yes, oversupply of buyers, so we've got a huge demand but low supply, you want to get your conversion up on your listing presentation, meaning I could choose 4 other agents in my marketplace, but why should I choose you? And I think enough agents don't do that, because if you're not able to bring what I call incontestable value to the listing presentation, people just choose agents based on price and who's got the lowest fee of marketing, right? That's what it just comes down to. So I would probably say 3 things you've got to have. Number one is value belief. People buy your confidence, your conviction. That's one value that they buy. So if you've lost a few listings and you're not winning some, your probably confidence is going to be low. So your value belief, demonstrating and illustrating that in a listing presentation, is probably going to be low. So number one is you got to believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, no one's going to believe in you. Number one.
Yep.
Number 2 is value perception. When we get busy or, we get complacent, I don't need to do that letterbox drop. I used to do 5 social posts. Now I'll only do 1 a week, right? So value perception has to be consistent in your marketplace, online and offline, all the time. If you don't have a roadmap or a plan around that, or a game plan, forget it. People's perception, they forget about you so quickly, because so many things come up all the time on our phones here and there. You need to be online and offline with creating that value perception. And then the third one is what we just spoke about, the incontestable value. I'm hearing some guys who are trying to list last year properties over Christmas. Yeah. And I would ask them, I said, what's your incontestable value to have a client sign their property before Christmas for next year? And most of them would come in with the dialogue off market. Rule number 1, don't try and sound like everybody else. Yeah. Everyone's talking about off market, right? If you're an agent, you're going in there, I can guarantee, because today we are hearing so much around off market opportunities, people come up with it, right? So I would say, well, why don't you talk about maybe using a funky name, and maybe using a name like warming up the buyers for 2020. So what I'd love to do, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is let me explain to you how I'd love to warm up the buyers for 2020 for your home, because I know you're not ready right now, But let's think about 4 things that we can do. When is the best time to get the attention of the buyer? How can we start to audition the buyers for your home for next year? How can we start to create a funnel and develop a funnel of buyers for your home coming into the new year? And then the 4th thing is, once in the early new year, we maybe get them through a VIP open home or whatever it may be, we can gain some market intelligence. And from that market intelligence, we'll know the feedback. If people are interested, asking for a contract, someone possibly wants to make an offer. And then we'll have a strategy meeting and decide if we decide to launch in the new year after straight out, because you might sell, or we've got a really good market intelligence to get our game plan ready with your home. Now, you give someone strategy, because there's 2 things I'll buy from you: clarity and confidence. How can you get me from point A to point B? And I think in terms of that, you need to have an incontestable value in 2020. You know what? People need to be looking at it. And the more I see it as well, Sonia, is most people don't have a client journey. You know what I mean? Top of the funnel, let's get a name and a number and stick them on and I've got their name and number from an open home. And then basically, literally, I'll just get a newsletter once a month. That's not mapping out your client's journey.
And they're boring newsletters.
Yeah, totally.
I'm on a lot of lists now. It's just...
right? Exactly. So how do you map out a client journey versus putting them on a newsletter, number 1, which they may receive once a month, and maybe get a phone call from that agent, I don't know, every 3 months, 6 months, whatever your call is, and thinking about, if I'm going to map out the client journey, how can I add value bombs? Because in this market in 2020, you need to exchange value for trust. And that's what I'm saying. And that means understanding your client.
Yeah, that's a good one. Exchange value and you'll earn trust.
Correct.
Yeah, very good. And I think the other thing too, just the point that I want to make is, like, I was just listening to you then thinking, if you were in my living room, I'd probably be signing on the dotted line the second that you put the agency agreement in front of me.
No, just kidding.
No, I don't have anything to sell right now. But just for the avoidance of doubt, there's nothing to sell here. But what came across when you were just doing that was that you knew what you were about to say. You knew what the answer to that question is. Mm-hmm. So if someone says, why should I choose you?
Yes.
You have the answer. Like
absolutely.
This, and it kind of rolled off. And I mean, I've talked about definitive selling proposition and stuff like that in Transform.
Yep.
You really need that to roll off. You need to be very clear on what the value is you provide versus the guy down the road.
Yeah. Because if they don't, they just choose it on price and marketing. Who's got the lowest fee? That's what it comes down to. But if you can demonstrate that bit, like what you were saying, Sonia, and then that, to me, it means you can charge a premium, number 1. Number 2, if you understand them, meaning you get them, you understand their needs, what their wants right now, what's their current situation, what's their motivation to get you in or why they want to sell. If you get them, they'll get you. And that, to me, means you're in pole position. It's pretty simple.
Absolutely. Okay, cold calling. Do people still cold call in 2020? Because this is a question. My boss says I should make 200 calls a week.
Yes.
I don't know who I'm calling and I don't know what to say.
Yeah. Does cold calling work? I think success is not one thing. I think success is many things. I don't know. If I had 1,000 people on my database over a period of time. Would I cold call? No. I'd be like trying to map out my client journey, be super clear in your client journey. If you don't have a client journey with those people in your database, because remember, with that client journey, it's giving them value to exchange for trust, because people will use you based on trust, okay? So if I had 1,000 people, no, I wouldn't cold call. But if I was brand new in the industry and I've gone, okay, Claude, I've rung my fears of influence, I've got my people in my network, and that was all 12 of them, well, I think you need to basically get out there. Cold calling, probably door knocking, I found in last year in 2019 has been super effective for some of the, maybe the sales associates who are more in that role of lead generating, or a new agent that started out. There's nothing wrong in terms of going out there and creating conversations. Again, if you're cold calling, either door knocking, whatever it may be, you need to be relevant to that person in your information. I still see today where the most ineffective way of cold calling or door knocking has been someone goes, hi, we just sold the property down the road and we've got 3 buyers that are looking to sell. Are you thinking about selling?
Because everyone says that.
Exactly. And not just that, why would I use you? I've just met you for let's just say 15 seconds from that dialogue. And all of a sudden I'm going to invite you in and you've got buyers. It's not going to resonate really quickly. You need to start the conversation about building the relationship first. So if you are out there and you wanted to start creating some relationships and you've got no one there, I don't know, maybe think about yourself. How can I be an expert in my core area? If you've got a farm area or a business development area, if you want to call it, start walking around and saying, okay, I'll door knock 50 houses a day and I'll come in there with a really informative report. So you might say, we're now in January. I would do an end of year market wrap up from last year. And I would say, here are the top 10 notable sales in my core market. This is what the high sale price, low sale price, medium sale price. This is how many properties went to auction, you know. So as an expert, you should be the resource for people.
Yeah.
So I would walk around with that. And again, just a very conversational type, just going, hi, my name is Claudio. Look, I'm just a local agent in the area, just reaching out to some of the neighbours as a courtesy, just to give them some information about the market from last year. Would you like to have a copy? Thought it might be helpful, etc. And then people go, yeah, wonderful, excellent. Then you can strike conversation. So how long have you been living here for in Smith Street?
Yep.
Oh, we've been here 5 years. Wow, wonderful. What have you loved most living around here? Oh, look, our kids go to the local school. And then a conversation starts, you know. And, you know, but some people try and dive in straight away for the appointment and go hard. And again, just, you know, you've got to try and build that rapport and connection with certain people.
I think so too. Like, you know, because I remember we did a podcast with the Agency Central boys who have got their own podcast called Behind the Suits.
Yes.
But I remember, you know, they said when they started door knocking that there are a few people that were kind of a bit wary of them because as soon as a real estate agent comes door knocking, it's like, no, I don't want to move.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Please don't make me move. So I think the technique that they used was they started just delivering scratchies and letting them know about the podcast and letting them know about following their Facebook page or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of getting to know the people in the area and being quite personable.
Exactly. And don't just focus on that because success, and if you look at lead generation, because that's a lead generation pillar, there's probably, I don't know, a dozen different types. You can network, you can, you know, maybe chase low-hanging fruit like expireds and et cetera. But like there are so many ways to look for new business today.
Yeah.
It doesn't just have to come to that. But what I will say is, this game is about having conversations. It is about, you know, someone said to me, it's a contact sport, you know.
Oh, God.
Real estate is a contact sport. Not like the old, I'll smash you. It's more like, you got to talk to people. It's contacts, talking to people.
Yeah. Well, you know what too? I think the old reporter strategy works here. So like, you know, if you're looking for inspiration and that is a lead agent we don't create the news, we report on the news.
Yes.
And so, you know, if you're an agent out there wondering, you know, like what your social media strategy might be, just simply report the news, be the news source. It doesn't even have to be about what you're doing. It could just be about, you know, what's going on somewhere else. And you know who does this really well, I reckon, is Super Stu Benson.
Yes.
You know, his Facebook page is like people actually...
Goes in a meltdown.
Yeah, goes in a meltdown. But, you know, people go to Stu because he is the reporter
correct.
On the ground.
Absolutely.
You know,
couldn't agree more. Could not agree more.
So there you go. 2020, be a reporter.
Absolutely. Be that resource, be the expert. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, let's talk about motivation.
Ooh, okay.
Because there are a couple of schools of thought here. Like, you know, we heard James Clear at AREC last year who said motivation basically doesn't work. You're the sum of your habits, full stop.
Yes.
And then there are some people that, again, have written into me over the year to say it's been really hard to motivate my team. Obviously, because conditions being what they are and stuff, the market is the market.
Exactly.
And I know that you're definitely of the school of thought, which is, you know, the things that you can control and the things that you can't control. And if you don't have 100% of the market, then the market doesn't matter.
That's exactly right.
So let's go back to motivation.
Okay.
I'm going to land the plane shortly. If someone is struggling with team engagement or motivating the team, what would you say to them?
As much as you want to help people, sometimes people have got to help themselves. So a good leader, and going back to, you know, what we said earlier in the podcast, a little bit about knowing your staff member, where are they at currently at the moment? You know, are they green? Are they flying, or they're in orange? They feel a little bit stuck or whatever else. So motivation comes within that person. You can maybe guide them and help them, but at the end of the day, it's you trying to find what is that motivation from that person itself. If I was an agent in the marketplace and I was looking up to a leader and I was speaking to my leader, I'd probably be asking as a leader and trying to motivate the team, is, and I learned this years and years ago when I was working with Dr. Fred Gross, you know, and he spoke about 10s, 25s, 50s and 100s. Again, you got to know what are some of these guys' tend. So for someone who's never heard that before, if you haven't worked with Dr. Fred, one of the things he taught me, this is going back a long time ago, so I'm not really going to reveal my age, but when I started working with Dr. Fred back in, I think, 97, I met him at one of the first or second ARICs. And I thought, wow, I've really got to work with this guy. And I worked with Dr. Fred for 5 years. But he spoke about this thing called the tens. And he just sort of said, you know, the things that are going to reward your soul on a daily level, which are your tens, either they happen a couple times a week or they happen every day. So I don't know about you, but, you know, if you look at my Instagram story, sometimes I'll put a double espresso. I just love coffee, right? So if I don't have my coffee, it doesn't make my soul sing.
Yeah.
So I look at the things that make my soul sing, because I look at certain things, getting to the gym 5 days a week. I don't find it a chore. I actually love it. I have a certain routine in the morning and things that gets me into what like gets me into rhythm for the day. That's just the way I feel. So there are certain things that you look in your life that you like doing a couple times a week. One of them is certainly Friday nights with my family is, I don't know, we might go for somewhere for dinner, or Lucy might cook something really nice, but everyone's together on that night. You know, the kids aren't training at sport. You know, one's not at a tutor or doing something else. Friday night is like our sacred night. And look, we're not Jewish, but I love that what, you know, some of the Jewish religion does. That's Friday night. It's like that's their time, the family, and we do it. But that's a 10 for me. That's something that I just go, wow, that I love having my family around on a Friday night. So I suppose is working out your 10s. Your 25s is just something I learned you do a couple times a month. I love getting a massage. So sometimes when you start rewarding your soul, firstly, people say, Claudio, you're always so happy. Yeah, because I know I'm aligned in my life. I know what makes me happy and the things that make me happy. And when you're happy, you find motivation. When you're, I suppose, don't have any motivation, start looking at what are the things that are holding you back right now? Okay, because what's stopping you there, stopping you everywhere, stopping you, you know, having that 25 or a 10 or whatever else, because you may be feeling, I don't know, maybe guilty of doing some of that stuff because maybe you're not motivated to do that sort of thing. So first is look at, you know, what are the anchors that you have right now, or what are your fears? One of the things that I do each week, again, I'm very big on doing certain rituals, right? But is the fears are sometimes the motivation stoppers. So if it's fear around money, or it's fear that things aren't working in your business right now, they're the things that you need to attack first. Because once you attack that, number one, you start to find motivation. So whatever it is, if someone's not motivated, it's more than likely maybe there's a bit of personal things happening at home. Maybe your team member is not hitting his mark on a GCI level, which means he's financially stressed. Work out their fears and their anchors right now. They're the things that they need to attack first, and help them as a leader. Help that person attack it. I normally say, that's the problem. What's the solution? Help them find that solution. How can they get that person from here to here? Because if that's the fear that it is, how can you help them overcome that fear or that anchor that they're finding that's a struggle with right now, that's holding them down?
I think the other thing is there's no point trying to push someone into a place where, you know, they don't want to be.
Yep.
You know, actually the best tip that I could probably add to that is this year, like I started keeping a journal. I highly recommend it for people that's feeling really busy.
Yes.
Because what it did for me is instead of picking up my phone every morning, I started picking up my journal and I'd write down one thing I was grateful for and what my one big question of the day is.
Yes.
And sometimes my gratitude things were very trivial.
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes they were bigger.
Yeah.
But, you know, the days when I didn't want to get out of bed,
Yes.
I would pick up my journal and I would just go back and read over what I was grateful for, and guess what? I would get out of bed.
You would get out of bed, right?
Even at 5 o'clock to do the brief, which is tricky sometimes.
I thought you were going to join me at the gym. No.
Let me tell you. No. Because it's different for everyone, isn't it? So,
Absolutely.
You know, like what motivates you or what motivates me might not be what motivates my team members. So you have to be wary of that.
Everyone has different drivers. Everyone has different drivers.
Very true. Next question. Here's a good one, I think.
Okay.
Pretend I'm new to the real estate industry.
Yes.
And I'm going up against, like, obviously when you're not an agent in momentum, like your market share is very small and you probably do have 12 contacts, you know, your immediate family. What do you suggest is a good plan for new agents going up against some, you know, heavy hitters, established agents in their area in 2020?
You know, I've had a few agents this year that have come up against that. And I'd have to say, first thing is, bit like what I said earlier, you need to bring your incontestable value to the table. Like, why would I not go with the guy that, sells everything in my area? He's got a good track record. He's getting results. Why would I use you, Claudio? You're brand new, the new kid on the block. And look, I sometimes hear people saying, oh, I've got more energy and I've got more time, etc. They're statements.
Yeah.
People need to actually illustrate and demonstrate, like, why would I use you being the rookie, for example, versus the guy that's got the track record in the area and has been here for like 15 years, right? And has been King Kong ruling the jungle. So I would probably say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, now you got to just plant this into them, because what happens is, I'll tell you what happens, Sonia, is most people won't talk about saying, you're probably thinking, why me and why ABC real estate, right? The actual seller is thinking that in their mind, but most people try to be nice and won't ask you that question. But if you're dealing with a D drive in say, the disc system in personalities, they won't hold back and go, well, why should I use you, Claudia? You've only been, haven't seen your name quite often in the area compared to Ricky Smith, who's been selling everything in the area, right? So I think the first thing is you've got to put that into your presentation. Don't come from a place of fear. Come from a place of like confidence. So what I mean by that is, if we're in a listing presentation and I'd cover off price and everything else, but part of my agenda would be, so Sonia, you're probably thinking, why Claudio and why ABC real estate? And I suppose, look, working with other clients just like you, one of the things that I felt and found that basically these clients that I've worked with, there's two types of agents that are in our marketplace right now. And one of them is what we call the transactional agent, and they'll come and list your home, and in between that, they'll do a bunch of open homes, and then right at the end, miraculously, will get you a buyer and get you sold. Now, that's just the typical model of the transactional agent. Clients who've worked with me have seen me be more the relational agent. Let me explain to you my strategy of what I do. Yes, we'll list your home, but I think what's important is what happens between listing your home to the first bunch of open homes that we do. I call this a 7-step strategy before the first official open home. And let me walk you through the first 7 steps that I do with my clients. Just for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through those 7 steps, but straight away, I've shown them the timeline of what happens between listing and the first open home. And I'm going to give them 7 value bombs before the first open home, right? Number 1. Number 2, so then once we start the open homes, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, and we just say, if it was an auction orientated, for example, well, this is the 10 things that we're going to do with the buyers to get to auction day. So by the time I get to the auction day, I start to coach the buyers on how to buy your home. And these are the 10 touch point experiences that I do with the buyer. And I actually walk that seller through them. Now, the difference between the transactional agent and the relational agent, which is me, and the transactional agent is sometimes the transactional agent is like list it, stack it, sell it. For me, I do 7 steps before our first open home, and then I'm going to coach the buyers to get you top dollar for your home. Why? Because sometimes a transactional agent can leave $100,000, $150,000 on the table. Because it gets sold, you get sold. But because I go deep and wide with the buyers, and I've shown you that and demonstrated that tonight, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you can see how I'm not going to leave anything unturned and make sure that you get that $150,000. It may not be much in commission-wise, but it's a hell of a lot of money in your pocket. So the question you need to ask yourself is, what type of agent do you prefer to work with?
That wow. I'm going at a million miles an hour.
Do you want me to pull the agency agreement again?
Yeah. Oh, geez, I really want you to give me a rose after that.
You're going to get a rose, don't worry. No thorns here.
So that's really interesting. So what you're doing is you're really changing the game there with the clients that you're working with because, and this is what I'm hearing, like, Dean O'Brien, a lot of people like that are saying that the transactional agent is kind of done.
Yes.
For 2019, we're done with that model, and it's like building a relationship. Again, it's maybe being a bit like a reporter too. Like after your home is sold, I'm still going to be around.
Correct.
I'm not going to be the guy that is
on to the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like The Bachelor.
Yeah. Well, exactly, the next one, or The Bachelorette.
Yeah.
But no, absolutely. And I think that's the bit where if you're a new agent, I think number one, you've got to bring something that's incontestable value. We can all say we've got energy in that, but people aren't buying your energy and everything else. Part of it, yes, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, what they're actually buying is who's who's the guy that's going to get me the most money? Now, if you can demonstrate and illustrate why they would want to use you versus the transactional agent, and you explain what you're going to do and how you'll work those buyers, and you'll give them a 10 touch point buyer experience. So when we get to the end and before we go to auction, I'm going to have a meeting with them and do a coaching meeting. I'll coach them how to bid for your home because I've built trust, connection, rapport with that buyer. The seller goes, wow, the other guy's not going to be able to have the time to do that because he's carrying 15 listings and young Ricky Smith's only got 2.
Yeah, that's what it really means.
100%.
Go, Ricky.
Go, Ricky. You like Ricky.
go, Ricky. What about this one? This one's an interesting one. I lost the love for real estate a little bit and feels like they've been there, done that, done it all. You know, how do you help people regain their love of real estate if they find, because sometimes it can wear you down. Like dealing with people is one of the toughest things. And, you know, like, and it's a bit of a shout out to property managers particularly.
Yes. They get a gold star. Totally.
Totally get a gold star because I think as real estate agents, you see people at their very, very best and at their very, very, very worst.
That's right. That's right.
And it can, like as humans, it takes a toll on us. You know, I was watching a police guy who'd attended a really bad car accident on the telly the other night.
Yep.
And he was saying, you know, it affects us the way that it affects other people because we're human. We have human emotions. And, and real estate agents are no different. I think sometimes, you know, we expect everyone to sort of come out all firing, all guns blazing, like, you know, everything's okay, even when it's not. So what do you say to someone that just says, oh, I just don't know. I don't know, Osher. I don't know where I'm going. Don't know what I'm doing next year.
Totally. And I've had this over the years with different agents come to me and saying, hey, Claudio, I've hit the top of the summit. I've reached $1 million, you know, and this is it. What else is there? And they've lost their drive or that passion for selling real estate or listing real estate, as you say. I think what's got to be super important is understand what your whole purpose is. Number one. So yes, listing and selling, that's all transactional sort of stuff. But what's the bigger game like purpose? Because you've got to build sustainability in this game, right? So sustainability means is you're going to be doing this year in, year out. We all hear it. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint in real estate. We know that. But what is it that is going to be something that's purposeful for you? One of the things that I've found with some people that have reached that point, which they think is the summit, which I don't think it is. I think when you get to that point, it's almost like base camp 2 or base camp 3, but we still got another few more base camps to get to the top of Everest, right? So I would probably start saying, Sonia, to that person who's sort of starting to work out, going, okay, tell me some of the things that you've connected over your years of doing real estate, whatever that may be, because this is probably for someone, not someone who's been doing it for 6 months. It's more someone who's been in the game for 4+ years, before they find it's wearing me down, I'm over it, I'm making good money, but it's not no longer about the money, Claudio. It's, you know, I've just lost that drive and that passion and that joy. Work out your purpose, work out the bigger vision for yourself. And literally, as you do that, sometimes it becomes about self-significance. What is it for you that's going to be, I don't know, something that you're going to feel really good about you in terms of what this vehicle of real estate is doing? Is it helping more families? Is it, you know, this will drive me to build a school or an orphanage in Kenya?
Yeah. Is it finding a higher purpose?
Yeah, you got to find exactly. Thank you. Yeah.
It was Nancy Youssef. We had Nancy. She wrote a book called Fear, Money, Purpose, actually.
Yes.
And so she'd made a lot of money as a mortgage broker and then as an educator for mortgage brokers and achieved financial freedom and then went, is this it? Is that all there is? And then she sort of went to Malawi and ended up, I think now, what happens, and I guess we're thinking about this too at Elite Agent, is like, how do we use what we've done or what we've built to help more people? And so maybe that's a way.
Absolutely. And I think you've got to be thinking of what else is it bigger than you in terms of, and exactly what you sort of said. It could be that finding that purpose. And I look at, you know, Zali Reynolds, and she's created that.
She's Shelter
Real Estate, and you know what it stands for. And I think she's doing things in Cambodia in certain villages over there, which is super amazing, like helping them build houses and bricks, that's purpose. That's like, this is not about just the game of lifting and selling.
Yeah.
It's about, this is something bigger. It's about, you know, one of the 3 basic human needs: shelter, water, and food, right? We get those 3 things, life is okay.
Yeah.
We don't need to make it complex.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And now that I kind of think about it, this is the younger generation coming through too that are going to expect it.
Yep.
You know, so I refer to my own daughter, and you've got a daughter almost the same age as mine.
She's doing HSC this year, 2020. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, mine did that last.
You might have to give me some tips as a parent after this show.
Absolutely. I've got a few of them.
Good.
Stay away and know it will pass.
Oh
there
my God.
you go.
Okay, no, it will pass. I love it. I love it.
Whatever it is, it'll pass. But, you know, really interestingly, like their year was the first year 12 that went through that their gift to the school was water fountains because they were concerned about the amount of plastic bottles in the school.
Love it.
And this is, I think, you know, I truly believe that becoming an attraction business in this decade or becoming an attraction agent in this decade is going to include sustainability.
Yes.
And being able to demonstrate what your higher purpose is.
Couldn't agree more.
So, you know, like I actually think that one's a really, really important one.
Well, that's where, you know, when an agent comes with a problem, you know, and I was saying, you know, once you get them to B, you help them to get to B, like place B.
Yeah.
That's not it. It's like the C part. And that's about that interrelational type of wealth. And I only found out because I read it, and it was a Harvard, I'm trying to think of the guy's name, Michael, and he had a really weird surname. And if I can find it, I'll send it to you because it's a really good read about where people reach a peak and then they go, what's next? And they don't know. And the guys who get it right, you know, the Warren Buffetts of the world and the Bill Gates, interrelational wealth is the next level. Yeah. That's where people want to take it to. Yeah. So exactly what you just sort of said there. What's your purpose? That's how you're going to attract. That's the model people are going to come to. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, Sonia. No, I believe that too. So for people that are sort of thinking, well, Sonia and Osher,
yes.
This is all very well and good, but you know, but what happens to me is that I start with all good intentions and then I fall off. So you've got a coaching program that people can sign up to month to month. And I just want to say too that, you know, we did a survey a couple of years ago that said just that simple accountability can make a huge difference.
Yes.
Like whether it's a coaching program or whether it's going to see a personal trainer or whether
or having a buddy system in the office.
Yeah. And it's not something that needs to be scary either. So just give us a bit of a rundown of what you're doing with your coaching program this year and your students.
My students, yeah. It was really funny. Just rewind the clock a little bit to 2019. My mission and goal was to help 50 agents write $1 million. I got to 33.
That's pretty good.
Oh yeah, no, thank you. And you know, some of these guys are already writing $1 million, but to either write $1 million or more. Problem that I started to face was it was my goal, not some of my clients' goal.
Yeah.
Meaning, number one is it wasn't about that. It was about finding that what is it for somebody. Someone could write $500,000, right? And they're happy. They're like, this is good. I'm glad that I can have a good life with $500,000 GCI that I write in that year. You know, looking at this year for 2020, I've changed my complete goal and mission. My actual goal and mission is to have every one of my clients, because one of the things I ask my clients at the end of it is, hey, I like to simplify things. And apart from saying, hey, what's your takeaway from our session today? But the other question I do ask, Sonia, is tell me, where are you right now? Are you in green lights, orange or yellow, whatever you want to call it, or are you in red lights? My mission is to have everyone at the end of 2020 in green lights, like every one of my clients, whatever that looks like for them. That means they're in flow. They're super clear. They're in progress. They're moving forward. And as a human, you just want to feel like you're growing and you're moving forward, right? So to me, it's about green lights, you know, just being in that level of green lights. So I've got this young kid. He reached out to me the end of last year and he wanted to work with me. And he really couldn't afford the program, but he said, I don't have the money, but I'll find the money. But he was just committed. Like, he was a really committed kid. And in 2018, he wrote like $60,000 GCI. And he said, no, I know I stand for more and I can do more. And, you know, he reached inside of himself. He said, no, I really want to go hard. So we had a project of 200, we called it. Project 200. That was our, just let's try and help this guy. He more than doubled that. He doubles his GCI. So from 60, he already did 120. And that was probably back in, what are we now? We're in January now, but I was thinking that happened back in October. By the end of it, he was over 150. Did he hit the 200? Not quite. But the kid grew. Do you know what I mean? And I think us as humans, we just want to know that year on year we're growing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The biggest fear for me is that if I was to copy and paste this year and end up being the same as last year, I want to make sure that whatever I've done, I've left nothing unturned. Yeah. Any fear that you have, you need to have a process to attack it. Like last year, I had some clients who were in red lights, that came up and was like code red. And the first 30 days is how do we get some really quick wins?
Yeah.
So, if you're ever in a sales slump, just forget about thinking like the big goal at the end of, the year. Chunk it down to say, look, what can I do in 30 days? You can lose 5 kilos in 30 days. You can get 5 appointments in 1 week within 30 days, right? You can get a listing within 30 days. Chunk it down and focus on the things that have to matter to make that change, because you can move and feel like you're moving forward. So in terms of where I look at it and measure people, we can look at the numbers and everything else, but someone will never lie to you and going, hey, I'm actually feeling like I'm in orange right now. I'm feeling stuck, or I'm in red. And because last year was quite challenging, I've got to say, Sonia, there was probably a good half a dozen. One of the guys, and you may or may not have heard him, but Johnny Warren down at Independent Group in Canberra. And you won't mind me sharing this because, I've said this many times, on Facebook and stuff like that, because I think it's a great story. It's like, can you turn something around? And if it wasn't the perfect year for you, 2019, he came from a place at the beginning of 2019 with 47 cents in his bank account. And literally was going to cut me off. And we had this conversation and said, okay, what do we need to do? And I asked some really good, strong key questions for what we're going to do in the next 30 days. And that got the wheels moving, got things started to move. You end up writing close to $600,000 GCI. That's how quickly, you can change things. You know what I mean?
I think, it does help having someone, to hold your hand along the way. Because sometimes taking that first step is a bit scary. And so, yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. And if you've got these goals for 2020 this year, the biggest thing I would say to you is break them down into 90-day cycles. We're in, the first quarter of the year. What are the 5 or 4 projects that you're focused on, that you're going to work on for the next 90 days? That's all you got to focus on.
Yeah.
Don't try and do 10,000 things, once. Try and do 5 things 5,000 times and get that really good, whatever those projects may be.
Yeah.
The old Bruce Lee saying, I feared the man that had the one move, but he practiced it 10,000 times versus the man that had 10,000 moves and only practiced once. Yeah.
I know who I'd rather get in the ring with.
Totally. Who's that?
Not Bruce Lee. Not Bruce Lee.
Totally
not
totally
Bruce
not.
Lee. Well, as always, it is amazing to catch up with you, and I've enjoyed this chat immensely.
Yep.
And I'm assuming I am going to get a rose at the end.
Oh. Yes, of course you are. Every time I come here, you get a rose.
Oh, thank you. Firstly, thank you again.
Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed our time again and answering the questions from agents and being part of a lead agent with us, the coach.
And we should say that if you have any questions for the coach, send them in to askthecoach@eliteagent.com and we'll make sure that the man gets them.
Absolutely.
Hair tips, anything like that.
Hair tips, product. I've got it.
Yeah, he doesn't publish.
Baxter's of California. No.
He doesn't publish that stuff. But,
no, I don't. No. Matt Clay finish. No, just kidding.
Yeah. So if there was one thing that you want people to remember going into 2020 to have a great year, what would it be?
I would say just feel like every day you got to be doing something that makes you feel uncomfortable, because if you don't, I think you're always taking the easy way out. Doesn't matter what it is. If it's getting uncomfortable and getting up at a certain hour in the morning, that's making you feel uncomfortable. If it's like you've never cooked for your spouse, maybe do cooking one night. Like just do something that makes you feel uncomfortable each day. And I will tell you now, you won't take the easy way out in life. You will always attack life.
Well, that's where growth is, right?
100%.
Absolutely. Claudio Encina, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me again.
To connect with all things Elite Agent, including the latest news, coaching and features, subscribe at our website, eliteagent.com.